All right, hello YouTube. My name is Alan, and it's that time once again. Let's talk metal. Pretty excited tonight because I got a very cool box in the mail that I'm going to show off what's in the box because folks like seeing what other people order. It's wacky but true. Tonight's box comes from Sentinel Steel Records, and I'm going to spend a little time giving a backstory here because it's a label slash mail order distribution slash other thing that I've dealt with literally for about 25 years now. So Sentinel Steel Records is run by Dennis Golby. He's up in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey area, has been for a long time. And I first encountered Sentinel Steel way back in the mid 90s. I believe he started doing mail order distribution around 1993. And throughout the 90s, Dennis was a real lifeline to fans of power metal and traditional metal here in the United States. That was a time when it was very hard to get a hold of stuff being made by all the European bands like Blind Guardian and Running Wild and such. Nobody imported those in the US. Everybody in the United States was too busy listening to Biohazard. Womp womp. So yeah, the only way to get that stuff was to go to your local indie store and pay a crazy import price, like close to $30 to get a CD, and it would probably take them at least a month to find it for you. Or you could get plugged into Sentinel Steel through Dennis. Dennis was a big champion for European power metal and traditional metal through that time frame, and I learned about a ton of great bands and got a lot of great CDs from him. Again, I've dealt with the guy since about 94. I've bought a lot of stuff from him. I've traded stuff with him when I had to sell a chunk of my CD collection several years ago. He's the guy that I sold it to, and it was a very smooth transaction. Dennis's communication's always good. His packing and shipping, you'll see with the packing in a minute, it's always really well done. Never had any problems whatsoever with the guy. A really good one to check out. He sells stuff on eBay, so you can find him there. He also, of course, has a Discogs marketplace site, and I'll put links to both of those down below if you want to check his stuff out. Sentinel Steel has always had a really good reputation for having certain things in stock. If, for example, you are interested in getting European editions of metal CDs that have the bonus tracks on them, or you want to get Japanese pressings of discs that have the OBI with them and things like that, Sentinel Steel often has a really good selection of that kind of stuff. Dennis is also really fair on his prices. He has a great selection of used stuff and new stuff, but the prices are always really, really solid. A lot of the stuff I got in this box now is just like, I can't pass that up for that price, as we'll see. But yeah, I first heard about Sentinel Steel back in this little mail order vinyl catalog, kind of a roundabout way. This was one of John Allinson's old vinyl mail order catalogs that came out. I think this came out in the winter of '94. And John mentioned there's a little blurb here in the inside cover. He would just put a few kind of random thoughts. But he had gotten a demo from a band called Eviction, which I think was a Pittsburgh band. They were up in the Pennsylvania area. And so, he was kind of saying, like, hey, this band sent me this demo and it actually rocks pretty good. Y'all should check it out. And so, yeah, I wrote the band and got a copy of the Eviction demo. It was called Think Tank. It was pretty good, heavy, rumbly, slightly doomy stuff, but kind of powered out sounding, a little bit like, classic Trouble. And if I recall right, in the mailer with the Eviction demo, they sent like a sticker and some other stuff. And they also sent a little sort of like free newsletter from this magazine and mail order called Sentinel Steel, which I had not heard of at the time. But in reading through it, it became clear to me, it's like, yeah, I need to get in touch with this guy and find out more. Sentinel Steel originally, started out also as a zine. Dennis published 3 issues. This was issue number 1, came out in '94. King Diamond, obviously, the feature there. Then in '95, he did a second issue. This one's all more kind of like newspaper stock, but still really well done. And then the third and last issue came out in '96. This was during the Blaze era of Iron Maiden. All 3 absolutely packed with reviews of stuff, interviews, Lots of kind of classic reviews, even from albums that have been out 10 years. There's like a little write up in one of these about stuff like Atlane and Brain Fever, just because Dennis wanted to talk about those albums. He also had a couple of co-writers, and sometimes they just wanted to write about classic albums like Hellstar's Nosferatu. So yeah, there was tons of stuff to be learned from these. Unfortunately, he didn't do any more issues after that. He did also make a few CDs. He did a small sort of record label pressing for some stuff. One of the pressings he was known best for was he was the first one to reissue Manila Road's Mystification and try to fix some of the sound problems from the original. I don't have that one anymore. But he also did some other classics. He did No Turning Back by Burning Star, so Sentinel Steel label. He did War of the Ancient Saints from Steel Assassin. Again, with collaboration, Sentinel Steel label there. And, he did some others along the way, too. And the CDs were always, nice packages as well. Dennis always, tried to do really quality stuff, both with the zine and with the CDs that he put out. And as I said, he's also done a really good mail order for a long time. So, I've already been talking over 5 minutes. Let's see what's in the box. Here we got the box. I've already opened it because who wants to sit here and watch me, try to, cut open a box. Everything is very well packed in here, all surrounded with newspaper and such. This all like triple, quadruple rubber banded together. There's only one digi and it's sandwiched in the middle here so that it's not going to get rubbed with the rubber band. So yeah, Dennis always, does a good job packing to make sure things aren't going to shift around or anything like that. So as I said, I was looking for just one or two things on Discogs, found them in Dennis's storefront there. And I always make the mistake of, well, let me see what else the person's got before I check out. And yeah, 10 CDs later, finally hit the checkout button. Sorry, wallet. When I use you a lot, it means I love you, right? That doesn't sound right. Anyway, let's do what we've got here. This will be a good refresher for me because sometimes you don't always remember what you order in these bigger piles. Okay, first up, cool. We've got an anthology by a band called Scratch entitled Before the Rain. The deal with Scratch. Scratch is a Swedish band, and they did one single back around 1984. And it's one of the sort of rarest, most sought after of those first wave of Swedish heavy metal singles. It's always been extremely rare. It comes in a picture sleeve with that logo on it. It's usually goes for a pretty crazy price these days too, unfortunately. The single got a lot of notoriety because it was one of the songs was included on one of those new wave of British heavy metal volume bootleg CD collections that came out back around 1992. It was on volume 4, if I remember right. And volume 4 was the first one that was digging into the really obscure, hard to find singles. Now you'll notice I said they were a Swedish band, but got included on a new wave of British heavy metal comp. Now, one of two things happened here. Either the people making the compilation series made an honest mistake and thought that Scratch was a new wave of British heavy metal band. That's possible. They do sound pretty new wave of British heavy metal. And so they just got included by accident. Or they realized this song is simply incredible and people need to hear it. And, well, we're just going to sandwich it on there to give it some hype anyway. Whatever the case was, the song they included was the first one you see on here, Metalbreaker, and it is one of the most glorious Euro heavy metal anthems of the entire decade. It's ridiculous to try to sit down and make a top 10 songs of heavy metal of all time. That would take forever and drive you crazy and would prove nothing. But if I were going to do that, I'm pretty sure Metalbreaker would be in that top 10. It is a fabulous song. As soon as I heard it on that compilation, I thought to myself, oh, I got to get that. What's it called? Scratch. How hard could that be to find? I'll put it on my want list. I'll get it someday. I'll get it someday. Someday. some dreams don't come true. Like I said, it's a pain to find. But hey, they got the anthology treatment. There's not many songs on here. They didn't do a lot of material. So you get the 2 tracks from the single and a couple of demo tracks. That's about all they ever did. So uh, I've never heard these demo tracks. Wanted to check it out. Dennis had the anthology. Take my money. All right, next. Here's a good example of the kind of thing that Dennis will have at Sentinel Steel that other folks just won't have. Jurgen's channel. I think you all knew who I'm referring to, the German musician with a crazy heavy metal collection. He's talked about, he kind of takes each band and goes through their collection. He had done Rage a while back, and Rage is one of those bands I've heard a few albums but never checked out all their collection. One of the Rage albums people rave about a lot is Trapped. And it's one I've heard way back, and I technically have a digital copy of it. I just haven't played it in ages. I got to thinking to myself, like, I wonder if there's a copy that I could pick up online. And checked eBay. No one in the US has it. There's a couple of copies in Europe, and of course, the CD is like $25 and the shipping's another $25. That's not going to happen. So I checked Discogs, and once again, nobody in the US had it except Dennis. And so let's put it in the cart. Rage Trapped used copy, $9. Couldn't find another copy anywhere in the United States, and even in other parts of the world, they were more than twice that much. So yeah, very happy to have found that. Now, this copy, Dennis, had it marked as, in, slightly used condition, described it. If he has used items that have any kind of little mark on them, he's going to tell you about it in the description. He's always very, very, again, detail oriented. If it's got a light scratch or a light wrinkle to the booklet, it will say so. He's very accurate with that stuff. But so, yeah, as far as I could find, it was the only copy of Trapped for sale in North America. Got it for a great price. So looking forward to revisiting that one. Oh, okay. Up next. Yep. We have Manila Road's Atlantis Rising. This, of course, was their comeback album that really helped establish them and give them their second wind when they finally started to get more attention and acclaim that they very much deserved but never got the first time around. So this is a very solid album. I'd had a cassette copy of it back in the day, never had gotten a CD or a vinyl copy of it. And so once again, poking around, I was like, oh, he's got Atlantis Rising. Well, how much is that? Oh, it's like $8. Or yeah, add it to the cart. That's coming. That's coming with me for sure. So most folks will probably know this album. Be cool to finally add a hard copy of it to the shelf. All right, up next, we've got EP by Eisentor, Mighty and Superior. This was a cool project that involved Tony Taylor from Twisted Tower Dire, rest in peace, and also involved Rich Walker from the UK band Solstice. Really good stuff. Unfortunately, there's only a couple of tracks on here. You've got Mighty and Superior, the Theomachist. You got track number 2, and then you have the demo version of track number 2. Sadly, this is the only thing the band ever got recorded. Again, Tony died in an accident, and they never revisited the project. But this is really, really cool. Now, I already have a couple of copies of this, but Dennis had it there for like $6. You don't see it around as much as you used to. So this I picked up strictly to go into a VCLT package for somebody else at some point, because why the heck not? All right, up next. I mentioned in a video recently that Marty's been dragging me kicking and screaming into the Andy Darius era of Halloween to revisit some things and check them out. A lot of those albums I never heard at the time. I've played them online here and there, so I know they each tend to have some good songs, but I've never sat down and really digested any of them. And lo and behold, Dennis had a couple of them for a very cheap price. So we've got Rabbit Don't Come Easy. Gee, I wonder why I decided not to buy this album when I saw it on the shelf in the record store. I mean, with graphics like that and such a, metal album title, how did I pass? That's right, there's how I passed. That rabbit is dynamite. Sorry, had to say it. Uh, but yeah, I'm going to check out some more of these Andy Darius albums from that particular era of Halloween. I'm not going to run out and pay a huge price for them. Actually, one of the local record stores here has a bunch of them, brand new on vinyl, really nice packages. They're like 30 to 35 bucks a piece. F that. I know I'm not paying $35 to hear this album, but I'll pay six. Absolutely. Thank you, Sentinel Steel. Up next, okay, another classic one I've mentioned a few times here and there in other videos and streams. The debut by Dark Quarterer. Oh, excuse me. This is an Italian sort of epic metal band, I guess is how you would describe it these days. Very quirky, have their own sound. Uh, really, really good. The debut here is a long lost classic. Like it a lot. This is another one. I've got a couple of copies of it already, but Dennis had a copy. It was very cheap, and this one's going to be put in a VCLT package going to somebody someday because more people need to check this album out. It's really cool. They've got their own distinct style. It'll appeal to fans that like that kind of Italian quirkiness, but in more of an epic metal sense, with some doom tinges to it. It's not a straight up doom metal release like a lot of the classic Italian albums were. So yep, this will go to somebody. Couldn't pass it up for that price. Next up, we have a factory sealed copy of second album from Destiny's End called Transition. Destiny's End were on Metal Blade back in the early 2000s. The reason I knew about the band back then was they featured James Rivera. This is his post Hellstar project. James, of course, had a killer voice, really excellent metal vocalist. So was sad to see Hellstar fall apart. Was cool to see him get signed and have another project. I had the first Destiny's End album. It's one of those albums I was always just on the cusp of really liking. I'd play it and be like, this is pretty good, but something always kind of kept it from clicking with me. It was called Breathe Deep the Dark, which was a pretty cool album title, but it never quite clicked, so I don't have it anymore. The second one I've heard in the past. I probably still have it on my hard drive somewhere. I know the first track, Transition, is a real banger. I don't remember much about the rest of the album, but again, I have for $5, factory sealed. Yeah, I'll give that another visit. Absolutely. So again, it's kind of in the Hellstar tradition, galloping, speedy U.S. power metal. Okay, got just a couple more here to show off. Looks like three. Next, we have another Andy Darius Halloween album. What is this one even called? What is that called? Straight Out of Hell? Straight Out of Hell. They have one that's called Straight Out of Hell, one called Gambling with the Devil. They both have kind of weird orangey covers. Wasn't even sure which one I bought, but for $5, doesn't matter which one I bought because I'm happy to get it. I've probably heard a couple of songs off this album. Never, sat down and given many of the Andy Darius albums much of a chance. So for that price, I'm more than happy to pick them up. Am I going to pay $33 for the vinyl copy of this at my local store? Sorry, not going to happen. But for a few bucks, I'm happy to pick them up on CD. All right. Next up, something I wanted to check on this one before I throw it up there. Okay. This is an oldie. This is a band called Sacred Oath and an album called A Crystal Vision. This is one of those kind of minor cult classics from the late 80s. I think it came out in 87 originally. And it's, very much in the gallopy U.S. power metal tradition. Maybe leans a little thrashy. It's been a long time since I've heard it. I had the cassette of it way back in the day, which is long gone. The thing I remember most about the album is the vocalist is very high register. We're talking, like King Diamond falsetto level. Another good comparison point would be the album put out by Lords of the Crimson Alliance, if anybody remembers that album. Really high-pitched vocals to the point where they can wear on you a little bit. But remember it being a pretty cool album. And I think, maybe mistakenly, I thought that at some point Dennis and Sentinel Steel had a role in getting this repressed or remastered, but that may have been a different edition. I don't see a Sentinel Steel logo on this one. But again, factory sealed, and it was like $4. I'll happily revisit the album for that. Now, Sacred Oath did get back together in the early 2000s, and they've made a lot of albums since then, including one here in 2021. I don't know if it's out yet or scheduled for later in the year. So there's a lot more material by the band to check out. And I'll admit I haven't heard a bit of it. I'm notoriously bad at keeping up with bands when they do the comeback thing. Yeah, I should check out more of those than I do. You can't listen to everything. A lot of those reunion projects end up not being that interesting to me, so I tend to be a little biased against them, which isn't fair. I should try to at least give them a chance. So I have no idea what the newer Sacred Oath stuff sounds like, but yeah, if you want something that's got that really gallopy, really really high vocals, Crystal Vision's a good classic to check out. All right, and then last but not least in the box, we've got a sealed copy of High Spirits. You're here. Again, this is one of Chris Black's projects. Really enjoyed this project quite a bit. He's done several albums. They're really fun. They're not really metal. They're kind of metal adjacent, but who cares? They were very energetic, very upbeat, very happy sounding music. This is stuff that you can still pump your fist and kind of bang your head to, but more likely you're just going to air guitar and you're going to smile because Chris, has a real penchant for writing songs that are, simple but very catchy, very hooky. You know, Chris very much studied, at the school of Motorhead and Bad Religion, and has that formula worked into his albums a lot of times very, very well. I've heard this when I bought it as a download when the album came out. I just never had gotten a hard copy of it. And again, it's like 588 or something on the Sentinel Steel Discogs list. Sure, I'll be happy to put it on the shelf next to some of the others I've got hard copies of. And that's the end of the box. Oh, sad. It's always fun digging through the box. But yeah, I've got my listening cut out for me for a while. So let's wrap this on up, and then we can keep talking metal in the comments down below. Anything here that I should listen to first, do you think? What should be the first thing in the CD changer? Anything that, even though I got it cheap, so I was like, wow, you paid $5 for that? What'd you do? What were you thinking? Perhaps there'll be some buyer's remorse for one of these. I don't think so. I think it's a pretty good pile of stuff for some pretty good prices. So if you like what you saw, again, check out Dennis's sites. The links will be down below for you. Send him some business. I think you'll be happy with the stuff that you find and that you get from him. With that, I want to wrap it up and start playing some new CDs. So until next time, everybody take care. And as always, keep banging your head.